The Utah Jazz made a change to their offense. The results have been dramatic, but what did they do and how did they do it? Next on Locked On Jazz. Bum 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 bum.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
How are you? I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz. It is your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, and hopefully making it way better to be a Jazz fan each and every day. We are free and available on all podcasting apps and on YouTube. We also have a daily newsletter that is free called Locked On Jazz. Go to lockedondaily.com, get it. Plus today, Mike Schreier writes his basketball poetry piece. Katie Heindel writes Monday through Wednesday and Fridays, an exclusive national coverage, plus Josh Lloyd's exclusive fantasy breakdown for you, and you get Locked On Jazz daily content. It's the ultimate number one stop for all newsletter purposes. Thank you very much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day, and to all you everydayers, you're simply the best. I cannot thank you enough for making Locked On what it is today. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the official ticketing app of Locked On. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, I'm going to make a correction about yesterday. The league I was totally stunned by it. And it's because it wasn't true. The league is not where it was a year ago. So we'll look at how the game is different. There are two very noticeable changes to what's going on in the NBA right now and how the game's being played this year compared to last year. So we'll touch on that. The Jazz offense made a change on November 3rd between Denver and Chicago. The results have been insane. We're going to break down what plays are being run differently, who's involved differently, what players involved, what the impact has been. We'll hear from Will Hardy on it, and we'll break down what that change has been. So let's start right there on the show today here on Locked On Jazz. The Jazz offensive rating after we left Denver on November 2nd was a 99.8. Ugh. League average, by the way, is 114. We ranked 30th in offensive rating, 30th in shooting, 30th in turnover rate. The Jazz changed the offense, leaving Denver, going to Chicago. The predominant change was kind of way they were playing spacing from 5 out to 4 out, but we'll hear from Will Hardy on that in just a second. Since then, the Jazz offense has gone from 30th in the NBA to 7th. The offensive rating has gone from a 99.8 to a 117.0. This is truly incredible. The shooting has gone from 30th in the NBA at 45.7 to 57.4. It's all the same numbers. They're just changed. Dyslexic boy over here thinks this is really cool. 45.7 to 57.4. We still turn it over a lot, but we're turning over 2 fewer possessions than we were before, and we're from 30th to 29th. Our offensive rebounding is about the exact same, and we're actually going to the free throw line a little less. We were going to the free throw line the most in the league. But it's pretty incredible that the Jazz have gone from 30th in the NBA up on November 3rd. So since November 3rd, before the Chicago game, the Jazz have now the 7th best offense in the league and the 5th best shooting team in the league. I mean, Will Hardy's kind of done this every year where he stunningly changes the offense after getting a read out of training camp, alters what we're doing, and we get way better. And we've done the same thing here. What's interesting about it is when I dug in to play style, specific plays, things of that nature, I'm not finding the most dramatic changes. So let's go to Will Hardy for a second, because before I dug into this completely, I kind of had an idea it was going on. And at the end of the press conference the other day, I asked Will about it. Here's what he said.
Yes, both, all. We made some changes schematically before we played in Chicago. I think the team has also just kind of settled into a little bit of a better understanding of who everyone is and what their strengths are and how they can help each other. Early in the year, we also had a couple of games where the shooting was abnormally bad. Like, it was not necessarily because of one thing, but the numbers were kind of crazy low shooting from the perimeter, and it made the court really small. So it's a combination of a lot of those factors.
So honestly, a little bit of a non-answer there. Like, there's not a lot. Like, I had to kind of dig in after that, because I didn't really feel like he gave me a great deal of like, well, we didn't, so they've schematically changed some things. So let's try to figure out what. So the first thing is picks. The Jazz have always been a very low pick and roll team in what they do. They've been an off ball screen team, a little bit of a handoff team. Not a very regular pick and roll offensive team. So if you look at the Jazz so far this year in their various games, if we end up running early in the year 55, 43, 52, 57 picks. We went high against San Antonio 69, but we've just kind of been in the same range. And so up until November 3rd, we ran 52 picks a game. And since November 3rd, we've gone from 52 picks a game to 50. Okay, but here's what's crazy. We went from 0.8 points per pick and roll, dramatically terrible, to 1.04 points per pick and roll. Like, how do we just suddenly, so they change, I think what happened is they changed floor spacing. Instead of playing 5 out, they started playing 4 out and putting a guy in the dunker. Because without Taylor Hendricks, we started playing 2 bigs. Or did we change the personnel who's running the picks? Let's look at that. Well, ironically enough, the single least efficient pick and roll player we have is Jordan Clarkson. And Jordan Clarkson's gone from running 13 pick and rolls at 0.8 points per pick and roll to 16 pick and rolls at 0.8 points per pick and roll. Yeah, like, I don't know. Jordan Clarkson is running 3 more pick and rolls a game, and he's equally inefficient. Keyonte, on the other hand, is running 2 fewer pick and rolls per game. And Keyonte George has gone from a league worst 0.7 points per pick and roll to 1.14 points per pick and roll in this time period. So he's gone from 17 pick and rolls a game to 15 pick and rolls. But crazily, he's gotten really good at it. Excitingly. How about we go with that? Like, excitingly. He's gotten super good at it. If you start to try to put that in perspective, it's a small sample size, right? You would say. But if we go and take a look at pick and roll ball handlers that are in the league leaders, let's take the top 60, which is the amount of guys that, the top 2 pick and roll players on every team. That's kind of what I always do, is I always go to the top 60. Are we good with that? So we look at Keyonte George at the top 60. It's basically anybody who's run 100 pick and rolls since that time period. And you go look at 1.14 points per pick and roll, and Keyonte George is the 4th best pick and roll player in the NBA since November 3rd. Like, where did that come from? DeMar DeRozan's the best. Anthony Edwards is the 2nd. Ty Jerome is 3rd. And Keyonte George is the 4th best pick and roll player in the NBA since that. I'm pretty certain if we flip that to where he was before, Keyonte George was the worst pick and roll player in the NBA. So he's gone from what I think was the worst pick and roll player in the NBA, yes, to the fourth best in this time period. Now, it might be Keyonte's just settling down, and that's just changed the entire offense. Or something about the spacing and who he ran the picks with. We'll check on that as we continue trying to figure out how the Jazz have possibly gone from one of the worst offenses the NBA had ever seen in the first stretch of the games to now the seventh best in the NBA. It's next on Locked On Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the official ticketing app of Locked On. It is the place for you to get your best opportunity to get the best prices on tickets. It is everything you could imagine out of a ticketing app. And when I say that, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, you get all-in pricing. Just toggle that on. Second, you get seat view. Third, you get lowest price guarantee. Fourth, you get Game Time ticket coverage covering you the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. And now, maybe most importantly, you get Game Time picks. What is Game Time picks? It filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats only, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets that are available at the various events. Game Time picks makes you getting tickets to see your favorite team eat live even easier. So use the app features listed in the customize your seat and that supplemental as an inspiration. You'll get the app will show you all of the things you need. The super deal, the curated deals for you, the best prices, seat views, lowest price guaranteed. It is all at Game Time. So right now, take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem your code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. Thanks for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. Greatly appreciate you. For all you everydayers that have been with us from the very beginning. Love it. By the way, we're back home here shortly. Saturday, 3 o'clock game. I do have stickers this year. So if you're interested, stop on by. I've got stickers, got really cool purple Jazz stickers for you. I think we're back. I think we're in purple against New York, by the way. What aspect of Keyonte George's performance do you find most promising? 49% said resiliency after being benched. 43% his offensive potential. And 8% took his physical presence on the floor in yesterday's poll question on our YouTube poll question so far. All right. So Keyonte goes from the worst pick and roll player in the NBA to the fourth best. Is there any change in what we're doing? Yeah. John Collins. So we were running 15 pick and rolls a night with Walker, 12 pick and rolls a night with Lowry, and 11 pick and rolls a night with John Collins. We're now running 16 pick and rolls a night with John Collins. 11 with Lowry, basically the same amount. And then Walker obviously has been out, but even before he got out, he was only running 9 a game. So we've moved John Collins. And John Collins and Keyonte George, who really struggled to find a connection last year, on November 3rd, their points per pick and roll was 0. 0. So no one knew statistically this was going to happen. They are now 1.12. The other one is that Lowry and Keyonte are connecting. Lowry was at, and Keyonte were at 0.53. They're now at 1.38. Big change, almost a point per possession change. Crazy difference. And then the final one that's interesting is that Drew Eubanks and Keyonte have been pretty good together. By the way, it's worth mentioning that Colin Sexton runs 11 pick and rolls a game. He went from 0.8 to 1.08. So just something overall in our pick and roll game just changed dramatically. Even though we're not running more picks. Remember, that was part of this, that the change was from 52 picks to 50. We have made a little bit of a change in our handoff game. We went from 34th in the league in handoffs, or 34 handoffs a game, to 39 handoffs a game. That's a big jump. It's about a 15 to 20% jump. And we went from 0.8 points per handoff to 1.0. I mean, all these number jumps are crazy. Now, again, the weirdest thing is the guy who's gotten the biggest increase is our least efficient player in Jordan Clarkson. Jordan Clarkson's gone from 5 handoffs a game to 11. He's 0.71 points per pick and roll. I would guess he's probably the lowest in the league. And yet, somehow this is all going on with him is getting these increases, and somehow it is increasing the Jazz efficiency. It seems to make very little sense, but it's true. The other changes are we've gone from 5 pick to Colin Sexton. So we're suddenly playing Jordan Clarkson and Colin Sexton off handoffs at a much higher level than we were before. And Sexton's gone from 0.8 to 1.0 to 1.1, which is a big jump. Handoffs aren't as prominent. Where we were looking at the top 100, we can look at about the top 33 handoff. The guys take about 33 handoffs in this stretch. And Mike Conley's the best in the NBA. None of our guys are in the top 10 in that same way. Scoot Henderson, by the way, is in this short period of time, so you wonder if he's figuring something out. Keyonte is 22nd in the league, and Keyonte George is 23rd. They're virtually the same. Keontae's taking the same amount of handoffs as he did before. What the change here is that's really interesting is who the setter on these handoffs are. The setter on these handoffs are guards. Walker was doing 11, and now he's doing 7, and John Collins was doing 4, and now he's doing 4. But all of a sudden, our setter on our handoffs, so the guy with the ball who's handing it off to the other guy, is another guard. So on the pick and rolls, we made the change. It looks as though we started integrating John Collins much more. He's gone from 11 picks to 16 picks a game. But on our handoff game, which got an equally as big a bump from 0.8 to 1.0 points per handoff, what the change is suddenly Keontae's handing it off 8 times a game. Sexton's handing it off 6 times a game. And we're playing guard-off-guard handoffs. And the efficiency numbers are through the roof different. Lowry as well, by the way, has gone from 3 to 4, but he's been absolutely fabulous at it. So keep an eye on that tonight. When you watch the Jazz play the Spurs, who will be without Victor Wembanyama, 6 o'clock start our time, is pick and rolls with John Collins and handoffs with guards. Now, the other thing that's changed is our off-ball screen game. And this takes me back to the press conference that we had at the Intuit Dome with Will Hardy, and I'm not playing the sound this time, in which Will Hardy said, I understand John Collins better than I did a year ago. The Jazz have integrated John Collins into the off-ball screen game. Honestly, it's not something the Jazz had really done before. Prior, on November 3rd, this is probably John Collins moving from a 5 to a 4, if you just kind of want to think about it that way. John Collins was running 4 off-ball screens a game. He's now running 11. So you're seeing the Jazz integrate, and this is Will Hardy kind of getting where he's so good. He gets to understand his personnel. He looks at it a little bit. He starts to adjust, and he starts to maximize it as the season goes on. We've seen this every time. All of you that are like full tank, we better lose every game possible. We are still doing that. But you're probably going to get nervous as I talk about this because this is what Will's so great at, is maximizing what he can. So the Jazz have started using John Collins off the ball screen. Well, in the time period since November 3rd, he's the 6th best in the NBA at it. Darius Garland, Jalen Brunson, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Jordan Clarkson, and John Collins, followed by Peyton Pritchard and Derek White. Interestingly, by the way, James Harden is last in the NBA at this. It's something that you're seeing. They're playing with handoffs and off ball, trying to get him going other ways and just going straight downhill, and it's not something he's good at. Never had to do it. Even the best players in the history of the game suddenly have to do something new. It's not great for him. And it's interesting to see Luka in that number because that's the big change that Jason Kidd's trying to make, and it's working brilliantly to have Luka come off the ball. Luka just doesn't like it. So the Jazz instead have suddenly changed their off-ball screen game, and they've gone from not a big change, 72 off-ball screens, the most in the NBA, to 75, the most in the NBA. That's their game. And they've gone from 0.8 points per off-ball screen to 1.06. So again, a massive jump. And the biggest change has been an overall efficiency jump by just a ton of players. Lowry, 0.9 to 1.07. Jordan Clarkson to the fifth best in the NBA, 0.85 to 1.19. Sexton to 0.7 to 1.0. Keys about the same. But the biggest change has been that John Collins has gone from taking 4 a game to 11 a game as he moves from 5 out spacing to 4 out, playing the power forward, and now getting those pin downs, coming around on a mismatch, being able to pin someone down low. It's pretty interesting stuff. All right, we'll summarize it and then look at where I was wrong on yesterday's show and how the league is different today than it was a year ago at this point. Next, as we continue on Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you in part by Chime. Chime is a new sponsor for Locked On, so very glad to have Chime aboard with us. Chime is an opportunity for you to make kind of financial progress. Helps you make progress with fee-free overdraft up to $200. So your next deposit is applied to your balance. You get no monthly fees or maintenance fees, and there's over 50,000 ATMs that work for you. So you can take control of your finances by using a Chime checking account, which features no maintenance fees, free fee overdraft up to $200, and getting paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit. We've all hit a point where we realize it's time to make more serious money moves, and Chime is here for you to do it. Learn more at chime.com/NBA. To date, Chime has spotted members over $30 billion. Friends give friends a boost. So eligible members get complimentary boost to temporarily increase a friend's spot me limit. When you give a boost, then you can boost you back to temporary raising the limit. It's pretty cool. So set up direct deposit in your Chime account. After qualifying direct deposit of $200, Chime will notify you to enroll in SpotMe. With an activated debit card, Chime will spot you up to $200 when you exceed your balance. Your next direct deposit is applied to that negative balance. Chime never charges fees or interest using SpotMe. Make your fall finances a little greener by working towards your financial goals with Chime. Open your account in 2 minutes at chime.com/NBA. Chime.com/NBA. Chime feels like progress. Banking services and debit cards provided by the Bancorp Bank N.A. or Stride Bank N.A. Members FDIC. SpotMe eligibility requirements and overdraft limits apply. Boosts are available to eligible Chime members enrolled in SpotMe and are subject to monthly limits. Terms and conditions apply. Go to chime.com/disclosures for details. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen today. Please sign up for the newsletter. Mavericks are running away from us. It's bad. We've surpassed the Kings, but now the Lakers and Celtics are on our tail, which is hard because they're big markets. So let's see what we can do. Please sign up for the daily newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com, and then click on Utah Jazz. All right, so to summarize. Amazingly, the Jazz have gone from on November 3rd, the Jazz changed their offense. They went from 30th overall, worst in the league by a lot, to 7th best. They went from 30th shooting to 5th best. How did they do it? They did it in 2 manners. One, John Collins has been integrated at a much higher level. He's setting 5 more picks a game, and he's coming off-ball screens 6 more times a game, 7 more times a game than he was before. So John Collins has been a major part of this boost. Number 2, Keyonte George's pick and roll game has gone from the worst in the NBA to the 4th or 5th best. Absolutely remarkable. From 0.7 points per pick and roll to 1.14. And largely it's been work with Lowry, Drew Eubanks, and John Collins that has been able to get that done in that time period. And the other thing that they've done in that time period is they've added guard-to-guard handoffs. And the guard-to-guard handoffs have been very successful for the Jazz. So kind of cool. Tip of the hat to Will Hardy and his coaching staff. Tip of the hat to the players to get to work through this, and we'll see if they can keep making progress. Those are the little wins throughout the year. The W's are not going to be on the board this year with this roster where it isn't the way we're developing. But this is the things that are important, where we see the team making strides based on what the coaching staff's trying to implement and the coaching staff understanding the personnel. All right, here's the league this year compared to last year. I was wrong yesterday. I had a filter that was resetting. I couldn't believe it. If you heard the show yesterday, I was like, the offense, it can't be. It simply can't be. So let me go and give you what the kind of difference between this year and last year in the NBA actually is. So the offensive rating, because the league went and changed the rules, right? Last year we were having this offensive explosion, is down nearly 2 points per 100 possessions. From last year at 115.8 to 114.0. So the rule changes of a year ago, where they've taken away some of the offensive driver advantage, has actually had an impact. The effective field goal percentage is down almost a percentage point, and our turnover rate is up. So super, we changed the rules so we make less shots and we turn the ball over more. And the free throw rate is up ever so slightly. So super, we change the rules. We get less baskets. We get more turnovers and more free throws. Super. I guess it was a little out of control, but still, part of me is like, yeah. The biggest change that's happened in the NBA, and it's dramatic, is the offensive rebounding rate has gone from 26.8% of offensive rebounds to 28.2% of rebounds are now offensive. So everyone's crashing. And if you're not crashing, I really think it's detrimental. There's been a rise in three-point shots, 38.3 to 38.8 from a year ago. The amount of rim shots is exactly the same. Three-point percentage is down 0.5% from exact date a year ago. And percentage of half-court plays is down nearly a percentage point. So teams are in transition a little bit more, or that could be the offensive rebounding having an impact there, that you're getting a little bit more offensive rebounding possessions than you were otherwise. So this is actually stems back to kind of the game is a little more physical. It's to the rule changes they made in February are still holding. Offense is down about 2 points from where it was at this time a year ago, which is about what happened last year. And so the game is much more reminiscent to what we saw post-February of last season when the NBA made their rule changes, dug in, and kind of said that's enough on these massive offensive explosions. So we'll see. All right, today the Jazz play the 76ers. Excuse me, play the Spurs. The Spurs are without Jeremy Sohan and Devin Vassell and Victor Wembanyama. So they're missing 3 of their 5 starters. Good chance for the Jazz to get a win on this road trip. Kind of be nice for us to get one. We've gotten kind of hammered on the 2 trips in LA. Played really, really well in Sacramento against a shorthanded team. And I thought I think this would be nice for us to kind of grab one. You need the wins every now and then to keep, if you're making these strides, you're making this progress, you're doing these things well, you need these wins along the way to make you kind of be reconfirmed that what you're doing is right. That's actually how the world works. Like Will Hardy can sit in front of his team and be like, hey, you've gone from 30th to 7th offensively. And, Keyonte, congratulations. You've gone from the lowest pick and roll rate to the 4th best in the NBA. Congrats. But W's are what make guys tick a little bit. as a group. And so if they could get one tonight, that would be super. Jazz Spurs, 6 o'clock. Please join me and Ron. We'll have a great time, I promise. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll send you now to the first on video to the first ever 24/7 national NBA channel, Locked On NBA, streaming on audio. Check out Locked On NBA's 2 editions a day.